Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a race, and everyone else is just winning? Like you're running as fast as you can, but the finish line just keeps moving further away. If that feeling resonates with you, I want to tell you a story about a man named Daniel. At 36, Daniel felt like he was watching his life from the sidelines. All around him, his friends were hitting milestones that felt impossibly distant for him. They were getting married, buying houses with white picket fences, and climbing the corporate ladder with what seemed like effortless grace. Meanwhile, Daniel felt like he was just trying to keep his head above water. Every social media post, every casual conversation, every celebratory announcement felt like a sharp reminder of how far behind he was. It was a constant, heavy weight on his shoulders. Each mistake he made, no matter how small, felt catastrophic. A missed deadline at work, a failed attempt at a new hobby, even just a slow day where he didn't feel productive at all added to this narrative he had built in his head, that the world was moving at a pace he could never match. He was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. The pressure to catch up was a relentless hum in the back of his mind, a thief of joy that stole the pleasure from his present moments. One particularly overwhelming afternoon, Daniel couldn't stand being inside anymore. He just needed to escape, to breathe air that didn't feel thick with expectation. He went for a walk, his feet leading him aimlessly, until he found himself near an old, weathered running track. The red clay was faded, the lines barely visible, but it was quiet. As he walked along the perimeter, he saw an elderly man jogging. The man's pace was slow, almost comically so. It was more of a determined shuffle than a run. Yet, what struck Daniel wasn't the man's speed, but the expression on his face. He had this look of complete and utter peace, a gentle, serene smile that seemed completely out of place on a running track, a place of competition and speed. Daniel watched him for a while, a mix of curiosity and envy stirring inside him. How could this man be so content, going so slowly? Driven by a need to understand, Daniel approached him as he took a short break. "Excuse me," Daniel started, his voice a little shaky. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but how do you stay so calm? It seems like everyone else is so far ahead." The old man turned, his eyes twinkling with a gentle wisdom. He let out a soft chuckle, a sound that was warm and kind. "Ahead of what?" he asked. He looked out at the empty track, then back at Daniel. "They're not ahead," sighed simply. "They're just on their lap. And I'm on mine." He took a slow sip of water from a worn-out bottle before continuing. "You see," he explained, his voice patient and soothing, "in this race we call life, there's a common misunderstanding. We think we're all running against each other, trying to get to the same finish line first. But the truth is, there's only one person you're ever truly competing with." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "And that's the person you were yesterday." Those words hit Daniel with the force of a tidal wave. They landed deeper and resonated more profoundly than any piece of advice he had ever received. Asterisk there on their lap, and I'm on mine. Asterisk, it was so simple, yet it reframed his entire existence. For the first time in years, the crushing weight of comparison began to lift. He wasn't behind them. He was just on a different part of his own track, running his own unique race. In that single moment, a switch flipped in Daniel's mind. He made a conscious decision right there by that old track. He stopped comparing. He stopped looking at his friends' lives as a benchmark for his own. He stopped rushing, stopped feeling the frantic need to sprint when he only had the energy to walk. And most importantly, he stopped punishing himself for not being where he thought he should be. He went home that day a different man. The change wasn't dramatic or instantaneous on the outside, but inside, a quiet revolution had begun. He started small. Instead of setting huge, daunting goals like buy a house or get a major promotion, he focused on tiny, achievable steps. His first goal was just to make his bed every morning. Then, it was to read for 15 minutes before sleep. Then, to go for a walk during his lunch break. He built small, sustainable habits. He focused on progress, not perfection. If he missed a day, he didn't see it as a failure. He just saw it as a part of his lap, a moment to catch his breath before starting again the next day. He was competing only with the Daniel of yesterday. And most days, He was winning. Weeks slowly bled into months. The constant anxiety that had been his companion for so long began to fade, replaced by a sense of clarity and purpose. He started a small passion project he'd been putting off for years, not because he thought it would make him rich or famous, but simply because he enjoyed it. He reconnected with his work, finding new angles and ideas. Now that he was unparalyzed by the fear of not being the best, his life began to flourish. It wasn't a sudden, explosive bloom, but a slow, steady, and beautiful unfurling. And the funny thing was, it didn't happen because he sped up to catch the others. It happened because he finally gave himself permission to choose his own pace. He found joy in the journey, in the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other on his own path. One sunny afternoon, about a year later, Daniel found himself back at the old running track. He looked for the elderly man, hoping to thank him, but he was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps he had moved, or perhaps his laps were finally done. Daniel didn't know. But as he began his own slow walk around the faded red clay, he felt a familiar, peaceful smile spread across his own face. It was the same smile he had seen on the old man, because he had finally, deeply learned the most important lesson of all. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not failing because your path looks different from someone else's. You are exactly where you need to be. You're simply on your own lap, in your own time. And that, right there, is more than enough. So if you're feeling that pressure today, I want you to take a deep breath and remember this story. Remember that you are on your own lap. Focus on being just a little bit better than you were yesterday. Celebrate your small wins. Be kind to yourself on the days you need to slow down. Your race is yours alone. Run it with grace, run it with purpose, and run it at your own pace. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. And remember to be kind to yourself today. You're doing great.